Hi, everybody. This is Erica from the Company of Cards. If you're new, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. I am in my natural habitat back at home. A lot of you were so cute. I said I was in a secret location, and people were asking me if I was safe, if I was okay. I mean, it's a term of art, secret location. I was just on vacation, but I'm back now with our favorite guest, Dr. Lena Rodriguez from Tarot Down Under. Hi, Lena.
Hi, hi. So good to be back, Erica, and in
Yeah.
such an epic week.
It is an epic week. How are you all reading the events of this past week over there? What are you thinking?
Well, I think speaking for the world,
Right, of course.
ridiculous. But I think people are very relieved to see um, a sign of such magnitude, just a really clear sign. I think the rest of the world is mature enough to know this is, it doesn't mean there's an immediate turnaround in the big picture, but it's great to see Americans standing up and fighting back, and that is exhilarating for us in the rest of the world as well.
Yeah, it's really
Because I think
exciting.
what's happening in many countries is we've all got our problem with the far right. So the numbers might be smaller,
Yeah,
but the sentiment is the same. So it's watching this unfold gives heart to all those who are resisting that right wing deep stuff
right,
in their own countries. Yeah.
right. But well, I mean, it's been great. I was delighted by these all of the results. I think so many women mayors, by the way, of cities that
Yeah.
like Detroit, Michigan, yeah, Detroit, and where else? Albany. No, not all. There were two upstates in New York,
Mm.
upstate, big cities that have new black women mayors. So that's
Mm.
huge. It's
Yeah.
it was a great day. I'm thrilled about Mom Donnie. I think that we are celebrating, and I think that's terrific. But we're now almost at the 48-hour mark, not quite, a
Mm.
few more hours. And what I was just saying to you off air is that celebration is great, and I was celebrating along with everybody else. But
Mm.
we need to. We're not necessarily as mature as the rest of the world. You mentioned that the rest of the world is aware that this is just sort of one thing, and
Mm.
it's a great thing, but it doesn't mean that everything is okay. I think here. Uh, it is very easy to tell ourselves that story that, oh, okay, the worst is over. Everybody's woken up. 2026 will be a blue wave. 2028 will be even a bluer wave. But it won't be any kind of wave if we don't churn up the water, continue to churn.
Totally. And I think the No King's March, followed by this, but this is the beginning.
This is the beginning.
It's not the end, it's the beginning. And that momentum has to be kept and grow.
Yeah.
So if we could just spend a minute on Mamdani, um, what an achievement.
Yes.
But we all know too, New York isn't the Rust Belt and isn't the Bible Belt and so on. However, New York, New York. Now we know that Trump has threatened him in advance
Yep.
that he won't release federal funds.
Right.
Now, we've also had a judge saying they must release all the SNAP benefits. He
By
just
Friday.
goes on a rampage in the middle of the night on Truth Social, going, might give something, might not, don't know, get back to you. Now, this is where the court system is unveiled. What happens when he doesn't?
Okay, let's talk about that. So, on
Yeah.
my video that I did yesterday, one of the issues that I looked at is the tariff situation in relation to the Supreme Court. We know
Mm.
that the attorney who is representing our side, we'll call it, is none other than Neil Katyal,
Milk
which is
Cartel.
great
Yeah.
because Neil
Yeah.
Katyal is terrific. But
Mm,
anyway, the question that there were two questions, one from Roberts and one from Gorsuch, that I thought were very interesting.
mm.
Uh, Roberts asked the attorney for Trump, who pays the tariffs? Now,
Yes.
I mean, what?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, but
Exactly.
the other question was just as weird. This was by
Mm.
Gorsuch. Gorsuch says, speaking of presidential immunity and power, how much is too much? And I'm saying to myself, shouldn't you all have talked about this before you got in the
Gave him what we all understood to be absolute immunity. That's
so
why there
that's right.
is this
That's
crisis.
right. So he is under the impression, he being the felon, is under the impression, understandably, I get why he thought
Yeah.
that he could do whatever he wants. That's what he
Yep.
thinks. Okay. Because nobody said, oh, except for this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Presidential immunity. I think the fact that those two questions were asked by those two justices
Yes.
is potentially very promising because certainly with the Gorsuch question, it's making me think that there's some buyer's remorse on the part of some of those justices.
Well, it was on his watch.
Yes. So I think that's really good. And then who pays the tariffs? I don't know. But
And
I,
the other side is trying to say that, oh, it's not a tax. So there's this whole semantic
right,
debate
right,
of what is a tariff and what is a
right.
tax.
But you mentioned the Supreme Court, and I know that they don't have to actually decide the tariff question until July, when they
Mm.
drop that big tranche of decisions. But I looked with my cards as to whether or not they would decide earlier on things like presidential immunity and on tariffs. And I saw that it'll be earlier, but it won't be February.
Mm.
But it will be earlier than July because every day that goes by, you know, he's
Look,
yeah,
they've painted themselves into a corner,
yep,
right?
yep,
With A, the immunity, and B, the tariffs.
yep,
What if they rule, which should be child's play, the tariffs are illegal? Everyone knows Congress has the power of the purse. So the question becomes the national emergency he's created. Okay, but that would mean the tariffs being paid back. Can you imagine
I
the
know.
logistics of that? So
I
that's one decision they can
know.
make,
Yep, yep,
right? How crazy.
yep,
Or they can say, well, the president understood it to be an emergency, and now we're dialing that back. That puts them head on with him.
right, right.
Or they do what I think they'll do is kick the can back to Congress.
Who aren't working,
Now,
who
who
aren't
are not at
in
work,
mid-session, right?
who are not at work. But we're talking, March, April, May, June, whenever they get around to this decision. Now, that's interesting compared with what the result of that would have been like 6 months ago. That would have meant Congress just rubber stamp whatever Trump wanted. So it would legally, technically, officially go back to Congress and they would go, yes, tariffs. Now the tariffs have been in and are biting.
Yep,
That leaves Congress in a bind. They have to put their hand up and say, I am subjugating myself to this very dangerous, cruel set of laws, and put themselves at odds with their voters, or support their voters and defy
right.
the
This is
glorious leader.
the
So
this
I'm
is it.
loving it. They've run out of rope,
That's right. That's right.
all of them
That's right.
with these things. They've been able to skip down the street And now suddenly their names are going to be attached to the biggest
I
decisions in
think
modern
it's
history.
terrific. I think all that the
Love it.
Democrats need to do is to hold the line. I think
Oh,
Schumer
yeah, I'm amazed
learned
they
the
haven't.
last time. He
Yep.
got such bad feedback from folding the last time.
Mm,
I'm
mm.
very, very glad that's all they have to do because what are they being asked to do? To choose between health care and food,
Yeah, it's outrageous.
right? They didn't come up with that. This is Republicans. I
Mm.
also think we're watching, I really do, and I don't think I'm being overly optimistic. We're watching the great unraveling of everything
Yes,
on
yes, we
their
are.
side. Now, we've got Marjorie Taylor Greene. We know that the reason that she is saying the things that she's saying now is that she wanted to run for Senate. Trump
Yep,
would not support it.
that's right.
And so now she
She's
finally
making
woke
her
up
own run.
and realized she's making her own run and realized that the only way to make that run, the only path, is the original path that it should have been in the first place, the only path,
Mm.
which is the people, with the people.
Yeah.
I mean, that should have been it the whole time. You shouldn't have had to go to the king, kiss his ring, and hope that he gives you permission. That should never have been part of it. But at any
Mm.
rate, she gives permission for other Republicans to maybe start to step away.
Exactly. If nothing else, she is saying the obvious and she is defying the tide,
Yeah, she really
which
is.
is never easy. And I'm not for a minute fooled by Marjorie Taylor
Right,
Greene,
right.
but occasionally you have a situation like this because she's saying the very simple stuff that cuts through, like, we're not at work. We are not working. Whereas Moses Mike, Grinder Mike, I love these names that he's
Mhm.
given by Jennifer Walsh from
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Oh, yeah, she's great.
bless her for the name calling.
Yeah.
I'm an amateur compared with Jennifer Walsh. Right. So he's left only with outright lies, where he says, we're really working on
Well,
affordable healthcare. No, you're not.
no, Abby Phillips, who's with CNN, stitched together this montage of him, of Mike Johnson, being asked questions and question after question. Well, I don't know. I haven't read that. I hadn't heard that. I didn't know that.
Mm,
Over and over and over and
mm.
over and over again. He looks like the toady that he is. I don't think he will keep his job long.
Now, I was just going to say, I don't think he'll have the job for long. And remember all the chaos that played out trying to get a speaker before.
Yes, yes,
And so that's all ahead of us.
yes.
There'll be all that. And who's it going to be? And what are they going to say?
Right.
Because they're now on a hiding to nowhere, which is an old-fashioned expression, you know.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter which way they go from here, they're going to upset people.
Well, I'll tell you
Yeah.
what, the other thing, the other elephant in the room, which is only growing by the moment, is Epstein. And I have not switched subjects on us here when I
No,
say
that's right.
because if
No.
you recall, the part of why Trump wants Johnson to keep the government closed is that he doesn't want that Adelita Grijalva to be sworn in so that they can take that vote to open up the Epstein files. And God knows who among that body, and when I know those bodies, I'm going to say Congress and I'm going to say the court. Who knows
Yes,
who is on that list for what?
yes, exactly. Right.
So I think,
And so, yes, so there's no rush to open the house. They're going to string it out as long as they can. Now, the other thing that Trump is doing, which I think is important, and he must keep doing it, is saying everything's great. The price of everything's going down. Your energy's cheaper. This is, he's always been able to gaslight MAGA because they don't look at any other sources,
Right,
right?
right.
So he'd say a ridiculous statement, that'd give them a bit of a chuckle. They wouldn't check it anywhere. I mean, talk about not checking. These are people who hated Obamacare and loved affordable care, right? So you've got to allow,
Big. Yeah.
I know. And so I even heard there were people in Kentucky upset they weren't allowed to vote during this recent election. They didn't have an election, right? So they've seen somewhere in the right sphere, we've been denied our vote. And Trump has run with that. All the Republicans who were locked out of voting, and he just has to plant that rotten seed. They've picked it up, not realizing they weren't even in an election.
Yeah. Well, that's
So,
why they want to dumb down. That's why he got rid of the Department of Education. That's why they're dumbing everything down. Because as he
well,
said,
they didn't have to do much.
no, and he said,
No.
what did he say? I love the uneducated. That's what Trump said. I love
Yeah.
the of
And
course,
that got
yeah.
him 5 years of applause, that
Yes.
statement,
Yes.
right?
Yes. I mean, he can, well, but again, things are starting to unravel because you're right. People are starting to feel the effects of it all. He has a Gatsby themed Halloween party. Did he
There
read
was
that book?
something,
Because
we've talked
Gatsby
before
died.
about the Versailles moment.
Yeah,
There
Versailles.
was something exquisite, and I mean that in an old-fashioned sense, that exquisite isn't always good,
Right.
but it was an exquisite moment for contrasting obscene
Yes.
wealth and poverty, the
Yes.
timing of it, the semi-naked woman in the glass, the imagery was breathtaking.
You know what? He's approaching his McCarthy moment. And what I mean
Yeah,
by that is McCarthy ran rampant with his anti-communist
everything. Mm,
nonsense. But he went too far. He
yes.
was so busy slinging his whatever around that he said, who did he name? Eisenhower,
Uh,
communist. Okay, that didn't make sense in
mm,
any realm. And
hmm.
that's when the fever broke,
Brooke.
right?
Yes.
And people turned against him. Now, I think it's going to take more than that with this person. I think it might take Thanksgiving because I'll tell you what, that's the biggest travel portion of the year in the country. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's the entire week. So now we're going to cut down the how many flights can leave, but in 40 different hubs, big hubs, you know, by 10%. That's gonna hurt people. They go to the
Mm,
grocery store to buy their Thanksgiving accoutrement and they can't
mhm.
afford it.
Yep.
That's not gonna work. I am really hoping that the Democrats and whoever else uh, we'll start to talk more about this was great. This is terrific. We had this bright shining election night moment. Let's keep the momentum going and let's observe the blackout. And the blackout, for those of you who don't know, is from
Yeah.
between the 25th of November through the 2nd of November. Now, for people around the world who don't know, the 25th is a Tuesday. You might say, why the 25th? Well,
Mhm.
because that's peak shopping time for
Mm,
Thanksgiving.
mm,
And Thanksgiving, I mean, Thanksgiving is huge. So
mhm,
if they say from the 25th, do your shopping in advance of that. Freeze what you can freeze and
mm.
get canned what you would
And do not buy in those dates. Yeah.
don't, right. You're meant to not buy during in that time frame. Now, also in that time frame, so that's great. That's the 25th. I think Thanksgiving something like the 28th, maybe it's 27th,
20.
28th,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Okay, then we have Black Friday. We
Mm.
should not be participating in Black Friday.
Yes.
Then, after Black Friday, there is Cyber Monday. Nobody needs to participate in Cyber Monday either. The
Mm,
only, if this country is founded on money and love of money as it is,
yes.
the only thing that people
It's the
in
only language.
this is the only language, the lingua franca, right? Is money. Money is the way that we talk. It's lovely to have bodies in the street. I think that's great. I mean, I won't be out there because, but I think it's good. It sends a message,
Yeah.
but they own it. The message is, oh, there's a lot of people in the streets. And
Mm,
because it's all, it's not a lot of us out there. It's a carnival atmosphere. It's a party.
mm,
It's fun.
mm.
There were hardly any police out there because we
Yeah.
weren't out there. That's the reason. Okay.
Different story.
But if we hit them in their pocketbooks, that will make a dent. Between the
Mm.
election and that, I tell you, it will be the McCarthy moment that we've been waiting for because I think people will say, I have to, elected official, I have to choose between my Lord and Savior, the felon, or my constituents.
Yeah.
And there's
And
more.
I normally can ignore my constituents.
Exactly,
They're
exactly,
not used to serving
exactly,
constituents, right?
exactly. But I cannot do that any longer. I really,
Yeah.
and you don't want to be the last one off the block, by the
That's the other thing, Erica, that I think is fascinating. And circling back to Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's taken it out there, and it's up to them otherwise to have to defend because Johnson is still saying, oh, we've achieved so much. He's talking about the big, dreadful bill, right? As an accomplishment. And the Dems, I think, need to do more to twin the pain everyone's feeling now with that said bill.
That's right,
The bill is part and parcel of the pain you're feeling because I don't think people have really put it together.
right. That's right.
And you have to join the dots for them. But very simply, directly, just go for it. And saying things like, because they're accused of holding up the opening of the government, just go, no, we've still got no hands on the levers. We're not at work. We're not allowed. We're locked out of work.
Mhm.
Just simple stuff that people can get,
Right. That's right. Well,
you know.
they say that people have different learning styles.
Yes.
Some people will
And this
learn.
lot are experiential, Magga.
That's
You
it.
know.
Took the words right out of my mouth. They have to experience it. They have to empirically feel the pain of this. And then
Yes.
we have to help them make the connection between their pain and who is causing their pain. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Other than that, get out of the way.
Mhm.
Let the pain unfold. But whenever you're asked as a Dem, just put those two things together, and they should, I think, start talking about it as the big bad bill.
I think so too. I think what's also been interesting is to watch the Republicans talk about the election that we just had. There's a lot of back and forth blaming. They recognize it as a terrible night that they had. But this is another nail in the coffin. It kind of it's going to make them, even the people, the legislators, turn around and say, wait, what? I know that the felon had a meeting with them the day after the election.
Mm,
And apparently it was a very ugly meeting and he blamed them.
of course.
So you would think some of them would say, okay, wait a minute. I've done everything this man asked
Yeah.
and he is berating me. Hopefully,
Belittling you.
yes, hopefully they put two and two together. I'll tell you what, I think a lot of people also did not like that poo raining down from the airplane on everybody.
Yeah, it wasn't something that's easily forgotten
Yep,
in the sense it was so infantile and not worthy
yep.
of, anything. It's like, I think they the Republicans, we can see it in front of our eyes, are now at this watershed moment too. In a way, even if Trump hadn't been so bad, for Republicans, it would be business as usual, which is just lying to your voters, blaming the Dems for everything, and business as usual. But they can't anymore hide from his atrocities.
Yeah,
And I don't think his 1 year mark is going to be massive because so far the tech economy has kept the stock market up
right,
because a full third of the stock market is AI and crypto and the huge tech money.
right.
Now, I'm only beginning to understand this, Erica, because let's face it, it's not my natural realm, high economics. But I do live with an economist, which is massively helpful. And in
It would
terms
be.
of breaking down these dynamics. So, with the tech bros, Sam Altman, who owns OpenAI, there's a rivalry with Elon because Sam Altman got there first and they go back to PayPal. Right. In all his deliveries about how well all AI is going and how it's the future, he admitted AI is not going to make money for its creators until 2029.
Mhm.
Now that's interesting to me,
This.
right? So
Yes,
in terms if you're a high flyer in that land, you've actually just beginning to grasp what that sentence means.
that's right.
So people have leapt in on the ground floor, fired their humans, and tried to replace them with AI, and it hasn't been working, or they've just started an AI literal startup. MIT, the Massachusetts Institute, who are grown-ups,
Yep,
deal with facts. The percentage of AI startups that has failed is 95%.
wow, that's a lot.
95. It's not a good number, is it,
It's
if
not
you're in
good.
there?
No,
Not a good number.
no.
So the limitations of AI are becoming apparent.
Hmm.
One.
Hmm.
The second thing about um, all that is if that bubble bursts, and there are various streams of thought, mainly on when as opposed to if. So what's happened is all these stocks are overvalued
Right, right.
by hundreds of percent.
Yeah,
Now, on top of that, AI and crypto I think it's really important for everyone to get their head around this. So I'm talking to the audience here passionately. AI and crypto use immense amounts of power, electricity, I mean, energy.
yeah,
Why is everyone's utility bills going through the roof? Is because we are again subsidizing the billionaires,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So it's just like the robber barons. So the public monies would create the railways, and then the Carnegies and people would get the profits.
yeah,
This has always happened. So the taxpayer funds SpaceX and Elon takes the profit.
yeah, yeah.
AI and crypto are doing exactly the same thing where everyone is paying them. So I think we're going to see awakening very quickly, just again through the literal power bills. Why has my utility bill gone up
Through the roof. That's right,
200%,
right,
right?
right,
So people are going to want to know why,
right.
and then they're going to stumble on yet another major subsidy for the rich.
You've heard it here first, folks. I mean, you're right. You're right.
And water. They use vast amounts of water, but that's another conversation. It's so important to realize, are we, and it's Australia too, and everywhere else, are we going to be the mugs who let this happen again? Or are we going to introduce laws like Ontario? You can pay your own bills, pet.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully Mamdani is the beginning of a wider movement because he would certainly take that kind of thing on, I suspect.
Yes. And even if he fails, and even
Right.
if they do their best to hobble him, he has the clarity and the reach to say why.
That's right. I agree. In fact, I did a reading on that. This was the one yesterday too. I looked
Yes,
at
that was your proof of life video.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love
yeah. And I talked about certain the three of the issues that he's interested that he's brought to the table. And I looked to see whether he was going to be able to sort of bring them to fruition. And I
Mm,
saw that one, possibly two, maybe not, but he would definitely open people's eyes
yes.
and have them start to ask questions. Wait, why did that initiative fail? Why didn't the city council vote for that? Because that seems kind of a
Yeah.
reasonable thing to want to fund or to want to, why didn't that happen? And that's how it begins, right? People have to wake up before they can, act, right?
You can't
Gotta be
progress in
the right
life
way.
unless you can identify who is shafting you.
That's right. That's right.
And it's not drag queens, I think you'll find.
No, it's not. That's right. Or
So I
welfare
think people are
queens.
going to be forced into what we've all seen and
Yep.
known or instinctively could read on the horizon. People are going to be forced into this crystal clear connection. And I always try and stress on my channel when I'm talking about tax the uber rich, I'm not talking about the wealthy middle class. They're paying immense taxes,
Right.
right? They're being sandwiched and squeezed and keeping the whole show on the road.
You're talking
We're
about those
talking
zillionaires who can
the
afford it and
zillionaires.
feel the pinch. They could still afford their
Yeah,
airplanes, their villas, their this, their that, their the other.
yeah, yeah. Their lifestyle would not be altered for
Yeah,
a nanosecond by doing the decent thing.
right.
And they're also, we talk about culture wars very glibly, but I want to see a new culture war where people should be embarrassed about this immense wealth unless they can demonstrate what field of research they're supporting, what charities they're supporting for real, not cocktail parties for breast cancer, no, actual donations on the ground, bring back that largesse.
Well, because the essential question is, wait, how is it possible that there are billionaires if there are people starving?
Mm,
Good for you. You made your money, you're a billionaire. But wait a minute. How are you a billionaire? How are you good with that when there are
mm.
people who are starving?
Exactly my point.
Well, here's another thing. So, which took me aback. So one of the races that was won in was the one in New Jersey,
Mhm.
which is great. Mikey Sherrill, and that's terrific. And she beat this guy, Jack Chattarelli, who was a Trumper. But anyway, guess what? Huh, 51% of white women voted for Chattarelli.
See?
They haven't gotten the memo. They're still
Yes.
choosing what they think is protection. Um,
Yes.
I don't, I don't
Yeah,
get it.
this is too hard. I'll let my man sort it out.
Yeah, he'll tell me who to vote for, you know.
What? What?
So
I
there is
know.
work to do. If you are someone who is not of color, if you are white, and if you're watching me, chances are you voted the right way. But if you didn't, I mean, well, if you didn't, think twice. If you did, talk to your, you know, talk to your sisters. They're not going to listen
Exactly.
to me. They
That's
don't
the
want to hear
job.
what I have to say. They will listen to you. And I think the other thing is, as people wake up, and you and I have talked about this before, we have to resist the urge to say, well, what took you so long? What did we tell you?
Yeah, I know.
Can't do that. So my
Mm.
thing is, I'm not even going to have the conversation because my temper will get the best of me.
Yeah.
I am encouraging my white sisters,
Yep.
talk to your white
That's the
sisters.
job going forward
That's your
with
job.
the one system.
Let me tell you something. I saw this is an Instagrammer. I like her. She's a teacher. She lives in the South, and she's really on the right side of things. But she said something, and I was just like, whoa. Now, I almost, in the comments, I almost made a comment, and then I thought, no, I'm just going to leave it alone. But I feel the urge to talk about it. She said uh, she was really tired and just felt weighed down by everything, as we all do. All of us
Yes.
do. Even the 92% that you all want to think are superwoman, we are tired too. But then she said, this is a white woman, she said, you know what I need? She said it twice because at first I thought, no, Erica, you didn't hear that. And then she said it again. I was like, oh my God, I did hear it. She said, I need a black woman to come up here and slap me. Now, what I wanted to say was go to your bathroom, look in the mirror, raise your hand, and slap yourself.
Yes, what a great
Why would
comeback.
this be our job to slap you? What are you really saying there? What's that all
Yes.
about?
My mind's racing
Yeah,
with the
yeah, yeah, because he's
implications and
always,
complications of
yes,
that statement.
yes, yes. That's the whole thing. It's not a singular layer. It is so
Yeah.
multi-layered that you need, I guess, I don't know. She's from the
A
South.
black nanny.
Yeah,
That's what
no,
she's
with
asking for.
a mammy. Let's call it what it is. A
Yeah.
mammy to
Yeah.
slap her into line.
Yeah.
Now here's so I did say something. I think I did say something on my YouTube about that. I didn't say who she was, but I was like, what in the? And I had several people, bless their hearts, as they say in the South. And I'm not
Mhm.
Southern,
We
so I'm
say
gonna
it
say
here
something. I could say something
sarcastically.
else. Yeah, but I'm gonna just leave it. They said, "Oh no, what she meant was she meant she meant it as a compliment to Black women who are just so strong and so wise." I said, "I'm sure she thought she was complimenting Black. I'm sure she did. I'm sure. But until white women stop infantilizing themselves
Yes, yes,
and using those sort of tropes about Black women being violent, right? Nobody's trying to slap anybody. Nobody's,
yes.
and take responsibility for themselves and their sisters.
It's so essential. You substitute the word man for black woman. I need a man to come and slap me. It would,
Right, right. But she
but
said
it's all right
it.
because,
I was insulted, and then, but I'm an adult, and I thought maybe I should write to her and explain why this is maybe not the best way to have said. But then I
oh, but
said to myself, no. Then I said, yeah, but Erica, if you do that, you're the mammy. You now having to explain to her something that she should already know. Let somebody out in the world, in the Instagram universe, let them
mm.
tell her, because it won't be as nice as the way that I would say it.
Yes,
And
that's
maybe
right.
she would learn it in a way that would stick. And I feel bad for her because she means well. She's got a lot of good material out. She's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
really a good person, I think. But there is work to be done. My God, my God.
And to state the obvious, it's still, it needs to be done 100% because so little's been done. Because America has failed to have the evolution and the conversations to make things
That's right.
better. So now it may as well be 1964, or you could go back in decades for whatever that represents. But it
I
shouldn't
know
be
it.
a
No, I know what you mean.
2025.
But yes, there's another woman on Instagram. She's white, and she always has her husband kind of in the background. It's very cute because he's like agreeing or nodding, but she's
Mm,
the star of the show.
mm,
And one time she went on by herself, and she said, she's another Southerner doing really good work around these kinds of issues. And she said, I was raised to be nice, to be a good girl, and to be kind, and to be sweet. That's what they said. Be sweet.
mm,
Be sweet.
mm.
And it all of a sudden dawned on her, she's a middle-aged woman, that what instruments of dominance and control those statements are. I
Yes.
think that
And it's of a parcel.
yes, yes, that's what I was going to say.
It goes with that
It to-
Southern
totally
Baptist
goes, but it's
thing.
not just the
Totally.
Southern, it's white. It's white. I mean, the South
Oh, absolutely.
away,
But it's
but they,
reinforced by the church
yes,
and everything
yes.
else.
And so that's part of why these conversations are not had.
Yes.
Because these are tough conversations. What do you do when you disagree? Do you just sort of not say anything, or are you afraid to say what you think because then you run the risk of someone being angry? What's the worst thing in the world about a person being angry? You
Mm.
work through it, you talk through it, you come out the other side, or you agree to disagree. But all sickness is not unto death is a line from uh, The Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. Well,
Okay.
all hard conversations are also not unto death. But how would you know if you don't have them?
Yes. Yes. And with the gun culture and everything else in the US, the discourse has got forgotten because it's naught to 100.
Yes,
Right. If
yes,
I'm angry, I'm going to shoot because I've
yes.
got more guns than you have. It's this primitive reflex in the white brain that stops these conversations. Well, it's traditionally stopped them and certainly isn't promoting
They
them
even
now.
start before they even start. Yes,
Yes, which is why Mamdani is an interesting political character as well, because he leaned into all the things that people could say
yes,
about him.
yes.
You
Did
know.
you read his mom's book? Do you know that his mom wrote a book?
No, good on her.
And I remember it was from, it must have been a teenager at the time. It's called Mississippi Masala. And I think it was maybe made, yeah, Mississippi Masala. Might have been
Oh,
made,
please.
but you
Oh,
should,
no, I do. I didn't realize it was her.
yeah, she wrote the book.
And I saw the film as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Isn't that cool?
That is so cool
Very cool.
and
Hmm.
explains why
Explains
he's like
why
he is.
he's the way he is. Exactly.
Oh, it was her.
Yes,
I'm so impressed.
yes. Very cool.
Yeah.
So there is hope, but we are all, not we are all. There are a lot of people waiting for to wake up and have it be a kumbaya experience. It's not going to be. Tuesday night
No.
felt kind of like that. It was good. It was great. But these hard conversations, listen, if you are somebody who says, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to help, I can't stand on a picket line, I can't stand at a march, well, I can't either. So plus I'm blind, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to. But there are things you can do. You
A
can
million
talk,
little things.
just talk, about hard
Talk to people,
things.
and not avoid those conversations
Right. That's right.
is the point. And you can quite reasonably broach those subjects with someone. It's up to them how they receive it. And if they spin off and they slam the door and don't speak to you again, that is one result, but mostly not. It's like the collective is better and worse than the sum of its
Well,
parts,
this is
you
the
know.
other thing. Let's say that happens. Let's say they slam the door, never want to talk to you again. In their quiet moments, they're going to say, wait, that's my sister-in-law. She came over when my husband uh, was away and I was in labor, and she took me to the hospital.
Yeah,
Or she watched my kids, or she taught
yeah,
me
yeah,
that recipe, and I'm going
yeah,
to throw her away behind a
yeah,
conversation because I disagreed or because what
yeah.
she said made me uncomfortable. So I think that even if there is a result in the moment that is less than ideal, you've planted a seed.
You've planted a seed, and then there's sort of step two. That's often when people get it,
Mhm.
which could be a feminist insight about how women are being groomed in a particular direction. It can be about racism. So that's step two, that suddenly they have an epiphany and they get it. And then I get this a lot from people too, not so much YouTubers, but in the Australian landscape. Oh, I feel so guilty
Oh,
about what we did and what I'm doing and all this stuff. Well, that's a completely useless emotion. So let's talk about alternatives to that emotion. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help Aboriginal people. It doesn't help
I
anybody.
think, you know what? I think there's a big difference between these two words. I remember talking about that when I was teaching. There's a difference between guilt and responsibility.
Hmm.
Guilt is not a particularly useful emotion in terms of this stuff because
Mm.
it paralyzes.
Yep, exactly.
Responsibility is the sort of the mature person's
Now you know
yes. So now
what you do.
what do you do? Because I'll tell you something, if you don't do that and you spend your time talking about how guilty you feel, what have you now done? You've made this you problem into
Mm.
now an us problem. You now
Yeah.
need to be taken care of and your feelings cosseted and coddled because you feel guilty. So now my job is to make you not feel guilty. No, why always this lens being turned back on yourself as the,
Mm.
do you see what I'm saying? I mean, you know what? Here's what I would say. Feel your feelings. Feel your feelings. You're
And take it from there. And to
take it from
use
there.
the women's stuff as another example, during the 70s and 80s, there was much more awareness about the extent of domestic violence, and refuges were open. There were these huge conversations. There's still not enough of them,
Right.
but it was when it, grew a lot. And there were these endless meetings of women talking about male violence. And I used to be the one saying, because one thing I will share with the audience is I really know a lot about men. And I don't mean in a romantic way. I've just always been surrounded by a lot of men. I would say to them, men need to be having these conversations with each other.
Right. Right.
It's fine for women to keep having the cups of tea, keep having the conversations. It's not instead of that, but the situation is not going to change until men address these issues. And that, like AA and other things, there should be things there for men to go to. Like, I love my kids, but then I find myself beating them when I get a few drinks into me. So, talk about that. Start a
You
group
know what?
and men talk about
You
that.
know who took over that what that sphere is this manosphere, right? The
Yes, with these nasty
incel,
little hate machine boys.
yes. Yes, like what's that guy's name? Fuentes. Nick
Yeah.
Fuentes.
Oh,
His name Nick. Yeah. I mean, he's a perfect example of that. So they do talk about their feelings and being men and but it's in a particular context and it's a particular vibe and it's a particular message that they're
yeah, but that's sort of another dimension than what I'm. If they'd had these
and
conversations, we
right.
mightn't be in the manosphere
That's
now, is
that's
my point.
exactly
So
right.
because this
Exactly.
vacuum was left,
That's right.
it got filled by these spoilt little frat boys who were so immature. And another shout out to Jennifer Walsh, too, on this. She's merciless about describing them as beta males
Yes.
or better males.
Yes.
And that's how it has to be regarded, I
Right.
think.
As opposed to, of course, alpha. Yes.
Yes, right. And keep hammering that, that they're looking for daddy's permission or to become the daddy or something. But it's very sick
But again,
and not good for
the
them.
message is accurate and it's correct and it's incisive and it's pointed. However, these men will not hear it from her. They would
Oh
have to
no,
hear it from each other.
no, exactly. And
Yeah.
so it has to be other men countering this stuff. Like if you compare Tim Walsh's masculinity,
Hmm.
just in that short time he was on the national
Hmm.
stage,
Right.
showing the compassion he did about every issue, that might not be as sexy, particularly when you're 22 or 24, but a version of it has to emerge to counter because it's young men who drift to the right, but then they're there for half an hour and then they're in the far right, and away it
I,
goes.
I, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but things are the way they are. You know what is that expression? It's not a bug, it's a feature,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
the way things are features of what was intended when this country, anyway, was created. In other words, these are not flukes and mistakes that things are the way they are. So if you
No.
are a male, you have to ask yourself, oh, I hear what Erica and Lena are saying, uh, but how will this disadvantage me as a white man?
Well, that's exactly my point, Erica, about the women's refuges and everything. It's fine to have the conversations between women, but the action, men have to
Oh,
take
I know,
responsibility for other men.
I know, but what I'm saying is, I'll wait while you let me know tell me the list. It's going to be short. I won't have a long wait. Give me the list of men that'll take this on.
Yeah,
Right,
look,
right,
exactly.
because why would they? If you think about, right? Why
Well,
would
I think there's a handful
okay.
in the sense of you could argue the Midas touch guys and even Tennessee Brando,
Yeah.
I think is doing good work in this field and so, but it's a handful
It's a
and they're
and
ostracized in their own communities.
that's right. And that's the thing. I mean, so these people blow up, but then when you think about, well, who they're blowing up how? Like who is their audience? A lot
Mm.
of times their audience will be women,
And older women.
older women. Yes. Yes. So,
Mm.
these are the people who need to say, okay, this is great. I've got this huge, enormous, great, big platform, but it's not speaking to the people that I need to reach.
Look, I'd just like to bring in a more abstract anthropological point here.
Mhm.
Remember back in the 90s, there was Fight Club and all those sort of movies about white collar workers going to strip off. Now, in anthropological terms, if you look at any indigenous society around the world, and I would put it at nudging 100%, there might be a couple of exceptions, there's a coming of age ritual
Yep.
that in the West has been lost. So you've got these boys, there's no point at which they officially become men. So they become man babies as long as they can and milk that. And then they
Yep.
go off and do the thing. So they don't, well, if, for example, I don't want people to think Aboriginal culture is a homogenous culture. Like there's hundreds of different traditions, but the Pacific, most African tribal groups, etc., have a coming of age ritual.
Yeah.
And I think they're craving it unconsciously because there's no point at which we can. It used to be for working class men, right? They'd tend to leave school early, like 14, 15. You'd get a job in a heavy industry or whatever. By the time you were 20, 22, you'd proved yourself
Right.
as a miner or a sawmiller or a lumberjack or something. You proved yourself amongst other men.
Right.
But as those jobs have left, I've pushed more paper than he did isn't going to cut it.
No. Right.
So I guess what the only thing I wanted to raise all that about is I'm trying to understand them in that sense too.
Right.
They've had nothing to push against. They've been indulged by both parents or the doting single parent, and it shows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So bring back initiations because otherwise it goes into a culturally clever initiation as opposed that's why hazing and all these hideous things happen
Right.
in fire departments. It's replicating the idea, but doing it in such a crude, cruel, empty, macho way
Right. Well, it's like
as to be meaningless.
the gang concept. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to get into a gang, you've got to be beaten in, or you have to commit some crime, and then
Yes, yes,
that's
yes.
the rite of passage. Yeah,
Exactly. So what, yeah, it's a distortion of what they're craving.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, uh, I don't know. This is an interesting conversation about men and women. I don't know about what, uh, evolutionarily speaking, one gender is more evolved than the other. What do you think about that?
Well, we should have a whole, I don't want to just tack it on the
Maybe it'll be
end.
December or maybe in the new year.
Yeah, yeah, right. Write it down. Let's talk about gender stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Because
women have, well, the menstrual cycle, this is the short answer. The menstrual cycle performs that function
yeah, it
for
does.
women.
It does. Right.
And then
But
having baby, right?
yes,
We've got our built-in thing.
yeah. I just mean in terms of well,
No, I know. I think I know what you mean.
the way we
And
think, I mean, and I don't mean, God knows, I do not mean to imply on any level that women are any more of a monolith than, any other group. Um, but I mean, there have been eras when women were far more powerful than they are now. There have
yes,
been,
yes,
and I think that what we've been taught is that there is virtue in being, I don't know, what, the weaker sex, the ones who are taken care of. I mean, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm just woke up and now I'm in the 70s and I just read Ms. Magazine. I don't mean that. I just mean that we are incredibly powerful. We're the givers of life, for God's sake.
Mm,
And I think that much of history has been given over to men trying to bury that whole idea.
yes. And they've worked extremely hard and they've had tremendous
Done a
success.
wonderful job. Good job, you guys. Yeah, yeah. And I think that I don't think that any good can come to us as a race of people. If I say human race,
Yes.
a human race of people, until that is reclaimed
Mm,
and reclaimed and embraced by all genders.
yes.
And
Yeah.
I don't see that happening anytime soon. I'm just going to say. So,
Oh,
for example, we're talking about what men should do and who they should do. And both of us, we can only come up with a handful who would be up for the job. How do we know them? Because we see them in the social media space. And yet here we are, two older women who probably comprise the majority of their viewership. So that's
yes.
the answer. That's not the answer.
And that's the other thing for the Dems generically going forward. They need to be visible on social media 24/7, get the teams of young things out there.
Yep, I agree.
Malay, the maniac with the chainsaw, I was in Argentina leading into the election and stuff.
Mhm.
He it was all on TikTok. He ran his entire campaign on TikTok. And the conventional politicians were left in the shade.
Yep,
And he attracted the young vote because, again, there was a vacuum.
yep, yep.
So they've lost free education, they've lost healthcare, they've lost everything, but it was exciting while it
Yeah,
was happening.
yeah.
So the Dems have a responsibility in this modern world. I shouldn't have to wait for late night news to hear what Hakeem Jeffries has to say on anything, but get young
Uh,
people to do it.
well,
We need young people to think and to change, or we are all sunk.
we right. I think we underestimate the power of young people. I mean, you and I, before we
Yeah.
went live, are were I was saying that, oh, Nancy Pelosi says she's retiring. She should have been retired.
for
Like,
10 years.
yes, and brought along some young people to teach. It's not just about teaching the young people what you know. It's more than that, because that implies that these young people are sort of empty vessels without a
That's
thought
right.
in their heads, that they don't
That's
have
right.
some innovative ideas, that they haven't
Exactly.
observed all their lives the way that we older people have done things and said, I feel like it would be better if we did XYZ, but they're not given the chance.
No. And Hakeem Jeffries is an example of being handpicked by
Yep,
Nancy Pelosi,
yep,
right? And if it was 1996, it'd probably be a great appointment.
exactly, exactly.
But in this time now, no. So a good mentor should freely give of knowledge and experience that you've got, but also
Give
to
free reign.
encourage what is
Yes,
there to flourish.
yes. I mean, I'll tell you something. I don't know if you heard this. So Lauren Boebert, of course, is crazy as a bed bug, but Lauren Boebert was talking about Hakeem Jeffries, and she refers to him as, and she's serious as a heart attack. She she calls him like a lizard person. She and believes that, the planet is
Yeah, yeah,
heated. But,
yeah.
but you know what? Obviously, he's not. He's a human being born of a woman. Sperm and egg came together. He's a real human. However, when you think of his affect, you can understand why she could get away with saying he's a lizard person.
Mm,
You see what I'm saying? Because there
mm.
is that carefulness, that lack
Yeah,
of affect, that
yes,
intellectualism that is, for some reason, has to come in a very kind of stiff, stilted, academic-y package with no
yes.
life force
And
behind.
it doesn't meet the moment.
No. Like a lizard person wouldn't meet the moment. They might have studied everything about how humans,
Yes.
but then
But
when push comes to shove and they have to operate, they're always going to seem like they're a beat off. They're
yes.
syncopated because they're not.
Yes, you feel him being very guarded. You can almost see the wheels
Yes,
turning.
yes.
Best not mention that. I won't say that. I know how I've got to express this because I've rehearsed it. And that's an inauthentic
It's inauthentic. You know what?
thing.
I'll make a parallel. I think one of the reasons that you and I are as popular as we are with our audiences is literally because we're authentic.
Yes, we're flawed. We give it our best shot.
Right. Right.
Sometimes we get
Sometimes,
corrected by our people.
and
That's all
that's
right.
great and that's terrific. But you look at people who are so curated in what they do
Totally.
that,
And
and they
it's
don't get
not going to
traction.
cut through.
No, it doesn't get traction because people feel the inauthenticity.
Yes.
So to go back to the political, these young people need to be allowed to cut their teeth. And they
Yes.
will make mistakes, and that's
Yeah.
okay. We
It's
make
all right.
mistakes, right?
It's all right. You
Hopefully,
know,
Mom Donnie's win will cause people to, hopefully it's the start of a trend.
yeah. Because the talent is there.
Talent is absolutely there. Talent
And
is,
it's time for us to pass on the baton.
yeah, yeah.
They have to be involved. Oh my God.
Well, I
Well,
love
here we are having solved the problems of the world again,
this. Once again,
or at least raised them.
we have one more time before it's 2026 to to solve all the problems in
Mm,
the world. What do you think? Can we do it, Lena?
yep,
Okay.
totally,
All right. I think so too.
totally. And I'll get back to you when I know where I
Yeah,
am,
yeah, yeah. No, that's
in
fine.
what
That's fine.
context.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's so great seeing you again. I love our conversations, and I know that our viewers do as well.
Oh, look, me too. It is so delightful. And I can't thank you enough, Erica, for making it possible
Well, all I do
to
is
just have
hit
these
a button and
chats.
issue an invitation. And I think it's great. I mean, I hope that I know because people tell me that one of the things it does is it models for people how to have conversations.
That's so good to hear. I love that.
Yeah, I mean,
I love that.
occasionally I'll have people, I've told you this, who will say, "Oh, we'd love to see you read cards together." Well, okay, but you've seen,
Maybe one day, but
yeah, maybe one day, but this is something else. We're just two people without needing the intermediary device of cards to
yes,
meet as real human beings who come from
mm,
very different places with very different experiences.
absolutely different places.
These are the kinds of conversations that people need to have, and I hope that they will and that they do. Um, because I think we spend too much time in our little silos thinking that the other
Yeah.
guy's gonna have the conversation.
Yes,
That doesn't happen. So I thank you for
absolutely.
agreeing to be my monthly partner in this. It's
Oh no, it's fun.
Yep.
Such
You'll see
fun.
us again in December. We'll do it again one more time before the end of the year. And,
Yeah.
and then we'll be back at the end
Symbolically,
of the year.
before the end of the year, we
Yeah.
must.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you all, thank you for being with me. I am, like I say, back at home, so no worries on that front. And I will see everybody really soon. So take care.